So, gentlemen, there's one thing you'll notice about Nietzsche, is that he has this tendency to poke fun and insult other philosophers and other thinkers. He puts them down a lot, and people often find this really, really funny. He just like attacks people, and it's almost like he's like an angry dude, just like, you know, spitting at everyone, putting everyone down, insulting everyone, insulting all the philosophers that we revere as great thinkers, and he's just incredibly dismissive about them. And it's it's always an interesting study, because you're kind of like, all right, he's probably doing this to be funny on some level. I'm sure he had great crack writing all his passages, but then underneath it all, like, he is actually 100% serious. Like, the reason why it's so funny is because he does mean it on some level, and it becomes a very interesting question. It's like, well, what the hell does he, like, why is he judging? Why does he hate them so much? Why is he so mean? Why is Nietzsche, naughty, nasty, screechy Nietzsche, so nasty? Why is he so mean? Well, the reason is because he actually had a judgment standard, a criteria with which he saw value in an intellectual, in someone as a thinker. Like, he really saw most philosophers which the West revered as simply not up to scratch, not good at what they do. He had, as you could say, he had taste for people like Heraclitus. He thought he was brilliant, and he said that Horace, the Roman poet, he thought he was brilliant as well, and he was somewhat dismissive of a lot of these more recent philosophers that came up, like Kant, who would have these really complex and obscure theories about morality or something like that. And Nietzsche is, and he taught me this, and I really, really took notice of this, Nietzsche would be way more honorable towards the idea of simple and sophisticated is usually better than smart and overcomplicated, because it's usually just a load of fog about nothing. Nietzsche really tried to install this in his writing style. You notice that he focused on aphorisms that would say more in a sentence than most philosophers say in a book. And that's a description, that's a proof of power, that's a proof of something very interesting, in that you just get it. You know, if you're able to do that, if you're able to say a lot with little, you probably get it a lot more than someone who needs 100 books or way too many YouTube videos to explain a lot of concepts and whatnot. So I guess I'm sort of getting called out here as well. Now, what's so important for you is that Nietzsche actually puts forth a program which you can use to actually build your character, your mind, your intellect, your ability to develop your most crucial thing, which is your ability to express yourself. And he does it in this sort of hierarchy. He starts off by saying the foundation for your ability to be a great speaker, a great articulator, a great thinker is actually your ability to perceive the world properly, your ability to find the truth. And then on top of that, what happens is you have to have the ability to understand, to think about things. And then finally, once you have that foundation, you're able to express, you're able to become an artist, become a public speaker, become a writer, become a rhetorical genius, an orator, whatever you wish. But once you have these foundations, you're able to do this with such power that you will move mountains, you will change the world. And, you know, Nietzsche is a testament to that. You can see that throughout his works, no matter what you think of the man, his technique, his philosophical technique was brilliant, and he had a lot of substance. On top of that, he had brilliant style. He was a fantastic writer, and he's intoxicating for that reason. And for some reason, even if you don't agree with him, he will make you think. And that's probably the greatest victory a philosopher can have. Instead of coming at you and saying, this is the absolute ideology which you must follow, it's more powerful if you can at least show people new ways of looking at things. And what you will notice is that most people hate new ways of looking at things. Most philosophers, most thinkers, most intellectuals you'll come across in the world, even the revered ones, are just sort of stuck in the comfort zone, and they actually kind of get angry at you if you say, well, what about we look at things a different way? What about we have a alternate opinion or something like that? No, they will freak out. They'll be like, no, you must see things my way because I am right and I have the science on my side, and appeal to authority and appeal to validation, but no skill at thinking. They get actually emotional about their arguments and whatnot. And you will find this in yourself, because this is the thing that's holding you back. I've spoken a lot recently about this idea of, shadow work and the left brain and whatnot. And the big thing I've noticed that's holding the boyos and the boyettes back is, the world theory, the big ideas in their heads. They're the kind of, I know this, and things have to fit into this little box that I have. And that's the way things have to go, and there's a huge amount of emotional charge in that, and they're in pain, and they're like, please, this has to be real, this information, this idea, this theory I've made has to be the way forward. But they can't just let it go and maybe say, oh, how could I break everything I just built, and look at it from another angle, and play around and whatnot, and be more fluid. And this is where Nietzsche does something very interesting, which is the ad hominem. He actually judges your thoughts on your character first, your ideas on your character first. He's always searching for that type of call out. And it becomes very interesting when he starts to paint a big enough picture that you can actually start to see two types of intellectuals. One, which is the virgin, anxious intellectual, and the other, which is the Chad philosopher who smashes with a hammer. And there is a criteria, there's a standard, there's a taste, there's a way of being which personifies both of these. And you definitely want to be the Chad philosopher who smashes with a hammer. And it all hinges on the idea of truth. It all hinges on the way that you approach truth. Now, like, what the hell does that even mean? That's sort of jargon, Stef, yes, and it is. So I'm actually going to go back to Rome, and I'm going to talk about the Roman religion and the way they conceptualized truth. They talked about the idea of Veritas. They talked the idea of reality as Veritas. What can be verified is the word that we get nowadays from this. Now, Veritas was a goddess. She was a woman. She was a goddess. She was beautiful. And what's so interesting is that Veritas gave birth to the goddess Virtuous. Veritas gave birth to virtues. Truth gave birth to virtue. Now, virtue for us is the sort of like be moral and follow the rules thing. Of course, the Romans had a different conception of virtue. That word has changed. Their conception of virtue was excellence and courage. Now, what does that mean? How is this supposed to interact? It's a myth, so it's kind of a little bit confusing at first. But think about it this way. Reality is a crazy thing. And in order for you to face reality, in order for you to face the truth, in order for you to face Veritas, you actually need to be brave. Reality is scary, you know? You go out into the real world and you meet a beautiful girl. And it's intimidating. You're like, oh, fuck, I'm going to have to go talk to her. And what your mind will do, your mind will say, she's probably busy, or oh, I'm better than her, or she's better than me, or she's walking too fast, or she looks like she's in a bad mood, or something like that. And your mind will rationalize. Your mind will rationalize you away from facing the truth. Your fear will create a story. All right, and then that story will protect you. It will keep you in your little prison. You're just like, okay, I don't have to talk to her. Whereas what will happen if you do the brave thing? What will happen is you'll actually have to, that little rationalizing mind, you'll actually have to put her to a side and say, shut the fuck up, I don't care. And then you'll have to go over and face that unbelievable kick of adrenaline that your body gives you that's trying to wake you up. And you have to say, okay, thank you, body. Thank you for the kick of adrenaline. Okay, I'm just going to go talk to her. And you might walk up and you might be a little bit nervous. You're like, hey, how you doing? I just saw you over there. I just wanted to come over and talk to you. And then she'll sort of be like, oh, look, another dude, but like he seems nice enough. And then you sit down and talk to him. And she was actually, yeah, I was a bit kind of bored. I actually wanted to talk to someone, and suddenly it's all working out. And Veritas is rewarding you. Reality is rewarding you for being brave, for being excellent. Because in order to face reality, you have to be courageous and you have to be excellent. And those two concepts blended together is what virtue meant. Can you see the unbelievable sophistication of that idea? And guess what? It gets even deeper. Because you could not be a man in Roman mythology until you achieved virtue. Virtue was tied to this. Not virtue like follow the rules, but virtue is in face the truth. Face Veritas. Face Veritas with courage and excellence. And that's how you become a vir, a real man, is how that would translate with us. Now that's amazing and so sophisticated and so simple, because it is true to form. The beautiful girl out there, what you can do is you can rationalize and ignore it and be a coward and stay in your little box and stay in your little lane and live an unexcellent life, a cowardly life, and get nowhere. Or else you can be courageous and go. So this is like literally like pickup training now at this point. You can be courageous and go and face the truth. And then you will get rewarded with being more manly. It is a manly feeling. It is an incredible feeling to overcome fear. It is so empowering, because when you overcome fear, even little scenarios like this, you are in this microcosm doing this little myth. You are facing Veritas. And so Nietzsche said, and this is very important to understand, when this little philosopher sits down and his whole life he's been avoiding facing the truth. He's been a coward, and he was the type of guy that let that rationalizing mind explain away what he needed to do, the simple thing he needed to do. Oh, here's this theory, oh, she's busy and all that. All he's doing when he's writing this book is just letting that rationalizing mind just keep talking. And we know that this rationalizing mind, these excuses that this guy made up not to talk to the girl, is actually a load of bullshit. Like, oh, she's too busy. How the fuck do you know? You're just saying that to avoid the pain, because it'll be uncomfortable for you to do what you want. You're staying in your comfort zone. And what you do is your comfort zone is made up by rationalizations, this little prison you build yourself. And so what's happening is that these philosophers, they sit down and they just write out these rationalizations. They let that crazy, cowardly voice, they give it more power, you know? And it's even more interesting is that, like, you'll see these people, you know, go on Reddit and they'll have these, like, theories about how women work, and they'll be explaining what's going on with that. And it's the same. It's like they have these theories about how reality works, and it's all convoluted and elaborate, and you spend hours looking through it being like, wonder what these guys are trying to say. They use a lot of jargon. Yeah, wonder what these guys are trying to say, because, you know, they say it with such conviction. They say it like as if they actually know what's going on. I better take it serious. I better take it serious because they say a lot of stuff and they use a lot of big words and they sound like they know what they're talking about. Yeah, I better take it serious. And then they keep saying, oh, but that Nietzsche guy, he was a nihilist. Oh, he was a postmodernist. Oh, fuck him. He doesn't know anything. He didn't believe in truth. But these guys, of course, they believe in truth. Their truth. They believe in their rationalizations as the truth. They have no conception that the truth is something more fluid, like we're describing. It is something that is out there in the world that you have to go face. They want to think it as something that their rationalizing mind can possess. This is what a woman is. It's this sparkle of conceptions that I made while I was sitting down in the coffee shop not talking to them. The woman isn't some type of thing out in the world that you go interact with. Femininity isn't something that is out there that you engage with. No. That's silly mythological nonsense. That's irrational nonsense. We are enlightened. We sit in our coffee shops, get high, avoid doing courageous things, and write about it. Just let our rationalizations keep talking. And these are the people that are the authority in your life, and they get to dictate what you think because you give them credence. And so Nietzsche is pointing to this and saying, stop. These philosophers, these revered, anxious, nervous, virgin intellectuals are nothing. You need a Chad. You need to be a Chad philosopher with a hammer. You need to crack this bullshit. Because these big palaces of rationalizations, they look beautiful from a distance. You see them and you're like, wow, that's such an elaborate, powerful theory. That's so interesting. And Nietzsche just sort of walks up. Oh, interesting, all right? And he takes out his little hammer and he just taps in it. And it's like, oh, fuck, that whole palace of rationalization, that wasn't made of stone. That was made of glass. And it crumbles. Suddenly you realize it's all bullshit. And this is what he's doing with his little aphorisms. He's just tapping palaces. He's like, where the fuck is the stone? What have we been doing for so long? Have we just been letting these idiots build up these complicated palaces? Bang, that one falls. Bang, that one falls. And then what you start to see is that if we are to ever go forward, we're going to have to start looking at ourselves and saying we are no exception from this. The way these philosophers, and the reason why they misled us, is because they don't approach the truth. They think that they can possess the truth and put it in and put their rationalizations together and be like, I've got the truth, I know what the truth is. But Nietzsche's saying there's a whole reframe you have to take towards the truth. The truth is a woman out in the world that needs to be experienced, it needs to be understood. And you are still part of this process, because like we said, that psychological conquest where you become become virtuous by facing Veritas, that is actually something you must do if you wish to be an intellectual. You have to take this attitude that you cannot know unless you face reality. And that's a psychological thing. And you're struggling like the loser in the corner with the coffee who's rationalizing, and you're in pain because the loser is in more pain. He thinks it's his comfort zone, but it's actually him being depressed and unhappy and doubting himself, versus the Chad who's relaxed and kind of very confident because he knows that there's no real need to be afraid because he's faced fear 100 times before, and he knows that it's just an emotion that he can overcome. But this person who's never developed their character, faced fear or anything like that, faced their shadow, if you will, whatever the fuck you want to call it. If you haven't done it, you'll be this little coward building this palace, almost as if this palace is this secret attempt for you to, build something pretty, so maybe the girls come over and be like, oh, you wrote that really nice palace. Oh, that really palace of rationalizations. Care to go on a date? Instead of you just taking the assertive thing and actually doing it yourself. And so You suffer because of your rationalizations, because of your bullshit, because of your left brain, if you will. And if you want to develop your character, if you want to become juicy, if you want to become good at thinking, if you want to do Nietzsche's rigmarole towards building this foundation, learning how to perceive reality, perceive the truth, see the truth, face the truth as its foundation, then learn how to understand how to think with the truth, and then learn how to actually communicate and articulate, become the artist, the writer, the person, the rhetorical public speaker, the orator, or whatever. You have to start in this foundation and say to yourself, am I doing it? Am I developing my character? Or am I being a virgin creator, virgin intellectual, virgin anxious person? Am I the Chad philosopher with the hammer? Am I calling myself out? Am I smashing my own bullshit?